Okay, so I went to Florida. They refused to give me any kind of help whatsoever. I was turned away from two shelters. Um, One is supposed to be a coalition for the homeless, for women and children. Um, the residents outside told me that they had beds, and then when I went in there, they said they had no beds. The place looks actually like a prison. It's like a complex. They have a security guard and a gate to even get in and out of the place. I then called some Christian service center of Central Florida and got an answering machine and left my phone number, my name, and described how I fled Florida because of my husband and that I was living in hiding from him and I was back in Florida and had nowhere to go and they didn't call me back. And it was not a weekend, it was a Friday. During the day, they had several hours to call me back and they still have not called me back. I ran out of money after 2 nights in a hotel that I wasn't expecting to have to do because I was utterly shocked that no shelter would take me in. Um, I heard excuses from, I'm pretty sure it was a cop who said that you have snowbirds coming down here and they're taking up all the shelters. So what? I'm not a snowbird. I was a Florida resident. As far as I know, I'm still a Florida resident. You don't become an unresident because your life is threatened and the lives of your children are threatened and you have to leave and you're living in hiding. And I clearly have been living in fear and in hiding because how am I not divorced? How was my house sold? How am I not even having any visitation with my children without even judges' orders or doctors' reports or anything stating that I'm in any way don't have full access to my children? I went to, I believe it was Morgan and Morgan because that was the lawyer's office I saw in downtown Orlando, which I'm not familiar with. I lived in Claremont, Florida. I didn't live in Orange County. And after I checked in, because you have to have a reason, I said I wanted to sue the state. Because number one, I didn't want to get into it with the receptionist, all of the details of my life. And the fact that, yeah, when DCF charges a person with neglect for said God told her in the middle of a divorce after she already sought help from them, that's not legal. So I don't know what these people are on that they think that's legal and everyone is crazy. They think everyone is mentally ill around them. After I checked in, they began talking right in front of me about crazy people coming in and them having to call security. And some guy said he wanted to sue the devil. Okay, first of all, I don't even think that's crazy, but I said nothing even remotely crazy. We have a U.S. Constitution here that protects free speech. So I spoke to this lawyer from Morgan and Morgan, who I haven't had a chance to look up yet, but I'm highly suspecting as one of these lawyers involved in trying to get rid of the Florida alimony laws, and that's why I ended up there. And I tell him how what happened with DCF, the entire timeline of how him and his girlfriend hired a corporate lawyer from her workplace, and then all of a sudden DCF showed up at my house, and he goes, "Yeah, they can do that. They shouldn't be able to do that, okay, because it violates up." And I believe I looked it up too that you can actually go after DCF. That's one of the ways you can go after them. That they're not actually allowed to violate someone's civil rights, and that's what they did. They violated free speech. They actually helped, and now you've got all these people in the state of Florida helping at least one man get rid of his wife. Just get rid of the mother of his children, and she's gone. And you're actually helping him to keep her out of the state by not housing her. And so finally, on the third night, I was just hanging out on by Church Street, and kind of like huddled down on this some business that was closed or something. I think it was some kind of a restaurant. And this guy comes and says that I have to leave there, that it's private property. And I go, you know what? Call the police then. Call the police, have them arrest me, or call an ambulance because I'm not leaving here. Okay? Within hours of being there, I was already being approached by men who I don't know if they think every homeless woman is free game for prostitution, and they know that these women aren't being housed. And in total, it was at least three men tried to get me to go with them for the night. And I was told repeatedly by homeless people about people robbing them and all of this stuff going on. And I wasn't moving from a lit area that I believed to be public. I didn't know it was private property in downtown friggin' Orlando. But anyway, so he does call the police. No ambulance shows up at first, and the police don't want to have anything of this. They're basically just trying to get rid of me. And it's like, I'm not going to some darkened area in the city to be raped and murdered and robbed. So you're calling an ambulance. And they thought that they were going to sort of like trick me to just move to another part of the concrete that wasn't this private property, because that's what they did. They're like, okay, we'll walk over here, like the ambulance was coming, and then they were still trying to get rid of me. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. So they ended up having to take me to the hospital, and I at least got a couple of hours of sleep. And then when I spoke to the psychiatrist, he deemed me able to leave. Like, they didn't even do a 24-hour hold on me, which they're supposed to do, so they're not even following that. Then the psychiatrist says, what do you want? What can I do for you? I said, I need to get into a shelter. And so he goes, all right, I'll send the social worker in. And she's immediately not nice. Like, she's immediately mean to me and starts saying that there's nothing she can do. There's simply not the resources. I mean, I don't know if these people are so mentally sick that they think they just keep doing this to people that are loudmouths or whatever, and then they get more money. No, that needs to absolutely stop. Okay? But what I did find out by her list is that they charge people to stay in these shelters even if you have no income, because it actually says that it's $2 a day for people to stay in this shelter who have no income. How would someone get $2 a day to pay you to stay in a shelter if they have no income? So that's completely irrational mental insanity, and it could be sort of an admittance that you are actually trying to create a class of people that you expect will commit some sort of your crimes. They will, or they're panhandle, or they're going to be prostitutes. I had men, more than one, tell me that there's plenty of availability for men to get into shelters, but if you're a woman, you're not getting into a shelter. So that right there screams to me trying to create prostitution in downtown Orlando. Okay? Sitting there, it was like completely surreal, where you have all of these people that are like all dressed up. Like, the women look like absolute whores, by the way they're dressing. That was kind of shocking to me too. Even in my heyday, I didn't dress like that. And they're just walking around the streets of downtown Orlando dressed like that. And they're going and they're partying and stuff and walking right by all these people that are just sitting there, some of them with signs, because apparently you're allowed to panhandle there. And it, it, it's it's horrific. It's absolutely frigging horrific. I felt like I was kind of in the twilight zone, and like I don't know if these people are like cognitively impaired, that they don't understand what's going on, or they're absolute and total sadists. But it's really, really bad. First of all, I could see a motivation not wanting someone like me to enter your shelter, because you don't want it reported what's actually going on in there, because people are doing that. Um, Also, I get all the time from women who are not sex sadists that it has something to do with how I look. It's not just me conjuring that up. People are telling me that. They'll either say you don't look homeless. I've had disgusting men be like, "Oh, you have a pretty face, so you'll do fine out here," and all this stuff. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's weird. Like, I think they just like thought I was a hooker or something. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like they expect someone who's homeless to be like dressing in rags and dirty and stuff. It's like bizarre. Um, so that's my report on that. It was like I didn't know what the frig to do, and still, even being released from a hospital like that, they don't help you. They still don't get you into a shelter. Like the cops won't get you into the shelter. The EMTs won't get you into a shelter. A hospital won't get you into a shelter. A woman paid to be a social worker at a hospital can't get you into a shelter. And she, with that particular woman, I actually kind of did have some things to say to her at the end, because the tone with her was completely different than it was with the psychiatrist. And she was basically, she's telling a domestic violence victim that there's no resources for that in the state of Florida. And I was like, since when? Since when are there no resources for women fleeing domestic violence? You're supposed to get emergency housing when that happens. And it's like, you're not really grasping that I lost all of my children because of this. And even 7 years later, you still don't feel a need to correct that. It's really, really, really wicked weird. Um, so it's like it goes with how sick you are that you don't care that this happened to a person. Yeah, and also then it becomes, even if you thought that all this time went by and I should just forget it with the kids and the divorce, which I haven't gone after the man for alimony or anything, right? Why would you think that I'm still supposed to be homeless? Like, why would you think that? So you need to admit what you're thinking. Like, do you think that I should now go to work? Like, I live in Thailand now, and you did all this crap to me, and now I'm going to work in your factory. Because it's really seeming like that's what people are thinking, and that's wickedly, wickedly sick. This country is never as greedy in everything as we've been here. We've never done that to people. We've never taken women who, I didn't even have children out of wedlock. Okay, I was married. We're taking women who are homemakers and forcing them out on the street to be prostitutes, or they're gonna work, and you're taking their children from them. It's very frightening that this is going on and people don't pay any attention to it. Um, Not everyone articulates words the same way. So it's kind of like, you know, in terms of me trying to understand why this has all happened to me. Um, I don't know. My faith in God is really, really being hindered right now in terms of what happened to me in Florida. And again, why does all this stuff keep happening? And it's kind of like, if you ever watch any of these videos, try to remember, okay, that I have voluntarily gone to hospitals and psychiatrists and therapists several times, and they have never classified me in terms of having some kind of a mental illness. I was diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So if you're still kind of going, she's crazy or whatever, then you need to explain that to me. Explain it to me how I'm crazy, and not this is the most whacked out thing and the scariest thing that you've ever heard in your life. And how could this possibly still be going on? I know that it's frightening, but for the sake of your own families and your children, you need to care about some of these things that are happening to people. Because just like in Nazi Germany, it doesn't stop with one person. A society that condones these things will be condemned. They are condemning themselves, they're condemning their own children to this. because no one is there to put a halt to it. Okay, I guess that's sort of my update. I don't know what the heck's gonna happen now because I'm usually not really allowed to stay where I am now. So I'm probably gonna end up at a different shelter in Massachusetts. I don't think I'm gonna go back to the Father Bill's, because this is another thing too, is trying to give accurate reports about stuff going on, and then you're forcing a person to keep going back to the same place where they can be put in harm's way because of the things that they've reported. It's called a whistleblower that reports abuses going on with other people. Um, so that's one thing. I'll probably have to go to a different shelter in Massachusetts now, and apparently some of the other ones are really not. I mean, I don't like to think things unless I'm actually experiencing it myself, but people keep saying that some of these shelters are horrific um, in terms of the conditions there. So, and this is the other thing too, is I went to the Social Security office, and apparently it's hours upon hours upon hours of a wait in Orlando at the Social Security office. Uh, why that's going on, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're cutting off people's Social Security, or you're having an influx of people going there. Um, because it's almost like now you're trying. This is the other thing, we're not housing me, at least in a shelter. I mean, that's not even demanding immediate housing, that's a shelter for people, okay? That you're trying to stop people from fleeing an area that has all these nuclear reactors in it, and the cost of living is ridiculously sky high, and you're trying to actually um, take a state, and you're not allowed to do this because this is the United States of America. You're not allowed to make up imaginary borders in Florida and keep other people out. You're not allowed to do that. We're all in the same country here, and we're supposed to be able to move freely around. That's why we don't have passports. That's why we don't have checks at the border at Georgia. Okay, so there's some, again, bit of mental illness going on there where people don't even understand um, the illness that some of these people are having in their minds, some of the things they're doing. Like, we're going to stop people from immigrating to Florida from the north. It's like, you just took in 4,200 people from Puerto Rico, and you're telling a person who is a Florida resident she can't have even a mat on her floor in a shelter. That we don't have any beds. I don't give a shit if you have a bed. Just stack me up in a mat so I'm not out at Lake Eola getting raped and murdered, you know? Um, so just a complete heartlessness going on where they just turn people away and they just don't even bat an eye or care. And the security guard at the Coalition for the Homeless told me that they keep, there's been a lot of people that have come in there and they don't work there very long. And it's probably because they have a bit of sanity to them. They're not, they probably start working and they get freaked out by how weird it is there. It's got to be pretty friggin' weird there, judging by what the place look like. And from what people are telling me, that it's a re-education camp. And then this stuff where you're charging people and stuff, there's going to be, and they have all the residents wearing lanyards with a thing on it that says resident in their name and stuff. Like, it's sounding really scary over there, honestly, um, at the Coalition for the Homeless. So that's probably why some people probably start working there and they get freaked out by it and they refuse to keep working because it's too weird, like they're working for the Nazi party.